Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett, me. And I'm, of course, Robcasting you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations, the show about something, episode number 715. And this show is, in fact, all about you today. It's all about letters. It's all about your opinions. I will, of course, respond to your opinions. Whether I like them or not, I will respond, and we'll have a discussion. And in that spirit, in the spirit of that, you know, one of the I guess, cause celebs, raison d'etre, whatever, of this channel is to create engagement with my fellow fans, all of you around the world, however you identify across these 28 known galaxies. It's all about discourse, us sharing together. And in the spirit of that, I was contacted by Paul and Simon Gilmore, or you know them as Twin Flicks, you know them as moderators, you know them as members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. They have been taking care of their father, and their father has taken a turn. So they are not going to be making the show today, but they gave me a little clip they made for their own YouTube show. They're going to do a show called Inside Film on their YouTube channel. Inside Film, according to them, it's a seasonal 6-part series focusing on film analysis, aspects of filmmaking, and talking about hidden gems, movies that got lost in the shuffle. The inaugural episode, a philosophical analysis of Gattaca, airs June 8th on the Twin Flicks channel. I'm going to put a link in the live chat to the... let me just get it here. I can't see. Oh, boy. There you go. It's in the live chat now, so check that out, and that will be dropping. Check out their channel. Go subscribe to it, right? Go subscribe, hit the notification button. But they made their own preview. So if you will indulge me, this coming from the Gilmore brothers, Twin Flicks themselves.
Ah, yes. Yes! I got it! Yes! So that is why he has 13 toes. That's amazing. Ah! Good afternoon. My name is Professor of Elm. I am here today to introduce to you a brand new series here at the Pescadero State Mental Facility in the Twin Flicks Department of Education. Yes, that is right. We are here to present a brand new feature. What will this feature include? Well, I'm glad you asked. This feature called Inside Film. So what exactly is Inside Film? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you, and you're going to like it. Simply put, Inside Film is a new series hosted by a doctor here at Pescadero State Mental Hospital, Mr. Dr. Junior Paul Gilmore, talking all about film and analyst, this word right down here. But that's not all. We are going to explore such topics as voiceovers, how to use it, when to use it, and if you should even use it. We will also discuss the importance of aspect ratios. Oh yes. Isn't this interesting? I surely hope so. Now, you might be asking a few questions inside that massive brain of yours, such as, when is...
Well, I want to thank the fellas for giving me the opportunity to debut that clip. I mean, at least on my channel, I debuted it. So thank you, boys, for that, and all the best to your father. I hope we're pulling for him here. Now, I want to point out that we here at the Burnettwork, we have a partner program. If anybody wants to make a cool show and they don't want to have to get 4,000 hours of viewing and 1,000 subscribers on their own, you can make a show for the Burnettwork, and we'll put it up, and we will split the revenue with you. We have a very, very fair split, and we have information on that on the Burnettwork website. I believe we have to have 6 episodes in the can, because that's like a limited series, so whatever you want to do. I know has something that she's cooking up, and also Alex Montano and Roberto Suarez have pitched me the idea for something, the title alone. I'm like, done. So if you want to make your own show for us, you can. And there's information about that on the burnettwork.net website for our partnership program. And if you're interested, hey, the more the merrier. We do call ourselves a network after all. Why should I be the only mug that you see every day? Like I said, my dream, Ray Kinsella, is to be able to have at least 12 hours of original programming every day. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, I could do that, but you would quickly get sick of me. By the way, shout out to the Gilmore Bros, because Pescadero, nice reference. Well done. Our first email comes to us from Yellow Flash. I love this. Mobile Suit Gundam 0079 and the Tragedy of Existing. Disclaimer 1. I didn't know if it was okay to curse in the letters, but then I saw others had done so I don't feel so bad about it anymore. I still apologize in advance. Disclaimer 2. When others send you letters, I get intimidated from even wanting to send you another letter because they word and express their letters so fantastically, I feel like a 7-year-old trying to measure up, laugh out loud. But at the end of the day, it's not a contest. I'm glad you realize that, because it is not. Disclaimer 3. Every time you sign off John's show, I always type RMB Smart Mofo. That's very nice of you. Why, thank you. Just curious if you ever saw that when you say goodbye. I've never seen it ever. Now it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to wait till I see it. So every day, because you can't, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Because I always click off. I want to thank you for that. And I'll accept it. I think I should get a shirt that says Smart R&B Smart Mofo. But then again, maybe that's too self-serving. But for me to say that on this show, too self-serving, how can that be true? Well, master of the Post-Geek Singularity, I fell down the rabbit hole once again after the last letter I sent to you about the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. Ooh, you know what this weekend's all about, everyone? Say it with me now. Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway, which I'm going to watch tomorrow. I am very excited. I fell down the rabbit hole once again after the last letter I sent to you about the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. I had not done it since the summer of 2015, and yet again, I wanted to hear your thoughts, opinions, and just pick your brain about this amazing, wondrous, drama-filled, mech-ass-kicking franchise. Like I stated in my last letter, you're one of the very few that gets this franchise in a way that most people do not. And I thank you for your time. As I try and arrange my thoughts, I'll just say this. Let's just start where it all began and muse about the one that started it all, Mobile Suit Gundam 1979. I should note that I never actually watched the TV series of Mobile Suit Gundam, but rather the 3-part compilation movie trilogy. A good place to start, I have to say. The compilation movies were more a condensed version of the viewing the entire show. By the way, do you know when the entire show ran initially, it didn't even finish? It got canceled before they finished it. The compilation movies were a more condensed version of the viewing the entire show, and there had been rumors that Yoshiyuki Tomino felt that several aspects of the TV series were too super robot-esque for the real robot series he intended Gundam to be. I won't get into it right now because I'm reading this letter, but there is a difference between super robots and real robots, and I encourage all of you to do your research and find out what that is. Instead of having armor upgrades to Gundam, Tomino instead added the more realistic core booster support fighters, with Hayato receiving the RX-77 gun cannon. Another reason, amongst many others, which I won't name, that I decided to watch the trilogy movies again instead of the original TV series run was due to the fact that the first Gundam film, released on February 22nd, 1981, drew a crowd so enormous, consisting of 15,000 people at its premiere, that it led to concerns from the police and the media that it could lead to social unrest from a riotous crowd. I mean, can you imagine a riotous crowd in Japan? Would they all be bowing and apologizing to one another for unruly behavior? Yo, that's crazy, laugh out loud. The event is supposedly considered a turning point in the history of anime, referred to as, quote, the day that anime changed, according to the Asahi Shimbun newspaper at the time. When I had sent you that previous letter just briefly mentioning Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, it is those films that gave me the urge to want to jump back into the franchise. The Origin films gave me more information to the backstory leading up to the One-Year War, as depicted in the trilogy movies. The first time I'd watched the trilogy films, I did not remember if they had shown Degwin Soto Zabi's philosophies about Earthlings eventually moving into outer space to expand their abilities and other new type capabilities that were just over the horizon for mankind as a whole if they were to stay on Earth. The Origin movies also fleshed out in more depth as to why Char hated Zabi family for assassinating his father and setting up their family as the leader and dictators of the colonies. Another aspect I appreciated about the Origin films is they properly introduced Ramba Ral and his loyal lover, Crowley Hammond. When they appeared in the trilogy films, my immediate reaction was, who the fuck are these people and why am I supposed to care? But the Origin films show you the connection between Ral and Sayla. I also like the Origin films painted the relationship and rivalry between Char and Garmazabi, something the movies only briefly hinted at. The reason I titled this letter The Tragedy of Existing is because, spoiler alert, almost two-thirds of the characters introduced in this story are killed. Like, if you thought George R.R. Martin was notorious for killing off his beloved and hated characters, Tomino says, hold my beers, Georgie. In fact, there's an infamous tagline associated with Tomino called the Kill 'em all Tomino slogan because he was so well known for killing off the majority of his characters. I don't know what the exact numbers are for the number of characters that perish in the first series, but it's probably more digits than you can count on both hands and feet. Characters that you were introduced to in the previous 30 minutes are all of a sudden massacred, shot, stabbed, blown up, sliced in half, and just outright annihilated right before your eyes. Even the first movie opens with fleeing civilians getting struck by stray munitions, and it only gets worse from there. By the way, if you want to talk about people dying, how about when they drop a side onto Sydney, man? I mean, that had to shift the Earth's orbit a bit. I mean, that was a massacre like we've never seen in popular entertainment. That would make Roland Emmerich be like, even I can't do that. Although he might with Moonfall, we'll see. Characters that you were just introduced to in the previous 30 minutes are all of a sudden massacred, shot, stabbed, blown up, sliced in half, and just outright annihilated before your eyes. Even the first movie opens with fleeing civilians getting struck by stray munitions, and it only gets worse from there. Another example of this is the character of Miharu. Kai Shiden meets her while White Base is stationed on Earth, and he gets to know not only her, but her younger siblings as well. All three were left orphaned after their folks had died. Eventually, Kai starts to develop feelings for her, and he ultimately invites her to come away on White Base with him. The problem for Kai is that Miharu is a spy for the Zeon forces. Eventually, she has a change of heart, and once another battle ensues between the crew of the White Base and the forces of Zeon, she tries to help Kai with firing missiles aboard a gun-parry transport plane, but gets hit with an exhaust blast and falls to her death in the Atlantic Ocean. Crowley Heyman is another individual that suffers a similar demise. After Ramba Ral dies, Crowley is determined to avenge him, and she tries to destroy the Gundam, only to be killed herself in the process. Ramba Ral, a warrior pilot who agitates Amuro to no end every time their respective mobile suits meet in battle, also dies in a fleeting but memorable manner. He's able to board the White Base and even shoot one of its crew members, Ryu Jose, before he himself is shot multiple times before he notices now an adult Sayla on board the White Base as well. But bullets ain't gonna kill Ramba Ral. Aw, hell no, dog. Even when he's trapped like a rat between the crew of the White Base and Amuro's RX-782 Gundam, he decides to commit a kamikaze attack by pulling the pin to a grenade and blows up inside the hand of Amuro's Gundam. Talk about hardcore as fuck, man. Laugh out loud. You want some more examples? Oh, I'll give you some quick ones as well. Ryu sacrificing his life by crashing a core fighter kamikaze style into Crowley Heyman's Magella top seconds before she was to destroy the Gundam. Slegger Law dying during a battle while fighting Big Zam Mobile Suit just moments before telling Mirai that he loved her and before slapping her as well. Garmazabi's ship getting destroyed from behind the White Base while Char tells him to blame his gruesome fate for being a member of the Zabi family. Garen Zabi eats a bullet when his own sister decides to mutiny against him by shooting him through the back of the head. And of course, sweet manic pixie idol Lala, who is accidentally killed by Amuro. It is because these examples and others that I did not list that the latter was titled The Tragedy of Existing. Even though Mobile Suit Gundam is dated and definitely shows its age if one were to watch it today, I still can't help but be mesmerized by the harsh vision of futuristic warfare that emphasizes the cost of all human life. This emphasis is even more prominent in the movies, where Amuro's increasing exhaustion feels even more appropriate with how little time there is between each engagement. Though the human cast members of the show and movies are a little stiff, they still at least showcase a full range of emotions and desires to be attained. Characters depicted in these films are engaging and change over the course of the trilogy. Amuro's constant struggle for survival forces him to confront that he's not fighting for anyone or anything except maybe being possibly accepted by his peers and his friends. Meanwhile, his rival, Zeon Ace Shar Aznable, sports a charismatic exterior but literally masks his conflicting motivations. It's hard to tell what Shar really feels, as his emotions and true objectives seem to change on a dime. The infamous love triangle between Shar, Amuro, and Lala is a story that has spanned over the course of 40 years now. In my last letter to you, Rob, I stated that one of the reasons that I adored Mobile Suit Gundam 00 was that its main protagonist, Setsuna, was someone who looked like me, and in anime as a whole, that was an extremely unlikely thing to have. I was wrong, laugh out loud. I had forgotten that Lala was a character of Indian descent, just like me, yes. A Freehold, New Jersey-born 30-something Indian guy, laugh out loud. When re-watching this trilogy once again, I did not remember how cold and uncaring Shar would be towards Lala. Sure, clearly was enamored with him. She was clearly enamored with him, like the way Amuro was with her, but Shar only saw her as a vessel with amazing new type abilities for piloting a mobile suit. When she dies accidentally at the hands of Amuro, his sudden hate for Amuro made no sense to me. It is that same friction which leads to one of the coolest endings to an anime series ever to be created, in my opinion. When both Shar and Amuro's mobile suits are practically destroyed, the two engage with a gun battle inside the asteroid of Eboaku. Everyone's wondering, going, what are you guys talking about? It's okay. Watch Gundam, you'll know. When their guns are out of ammo, they resort to a sword duel like two swashbuckling pirates. Shar is able to stab Amuro while Amuro pierces Shar's helmet. The two finally stop fighting when Shar's sister, Sayla, finally convinces him to kill the ones responsible for this whole mess in the first place, the Zabi family. As Amuro and Sayla escape, Shar does one of the coolest, most memorable things I've ever witnessed. With blood trickling down his face, he shoots a bazooka right into the face of the last remaining Zabi member, Cassilia, and destroying her ship. Though there's so much more I want to say about these movies, I fear I may have blabbed on for much longer than your audience prefers me. That's okay, I do too. But I want to say that there's a certain element of timelessness to the Gundam franchise as a whole. Even after all these years, the series still serves to be hugely inspirational. Every Gundam series, especially this one, starts loud and raw, maintaining that energy until reaching its cataclysmic ends. Its anti-war themes are what separates it from others, and its characters go on to live in your memories for years to come. Was this letter all over the place? You'd think someone with a PhD like Willow Yang would be able to write a more elegant, better worded letter. Hey, that's okay. You're not Willow Yang. But I just can't seem to be able to structure my thoughts in a more clear and concise manner. My apologies once again, laugh out loud. Well, Rob, I'd love to hear your feedback, thoughts, and your memories of when you first saw this one. I'll be sure and send you my next letter fanboying about the next chapter in this amazing franchise. Once again, thank you for all that you do and for taking time to read my ridiculous letters. Rock on, Rob. Here's a collage image of people getting slapped in Mobile Suit Gundam 1979. You know, I don't know why I can't get this letter. But I want to thank you, Yellow Flash, for writing in. You know, to be honest, Mobile Suit Gundam was something that I only saw pictures of, like in Starlog. And it debuted in 79, and I always thought it was weird that there were samurai-esque robots with lightsabers. And I didn't quite know what it was. Now, I hadn't even seen any Super Robot series at this time. I would have been 11, 12 years old. And I knew about them because I had Japanese Shogun Warrior, when Mattel brought the Shogun Warrior line to the U.S., I bought them all. Well, I did not know that they were from animated shows. You know, I didn't understand what Getter Robo or Getter Robo G was, which my beloved Getter Robo G future figures that are right up there are so gorgeous. I can see them out of the corner of my eye when ridiculously expensive Japanese diecast, but I love Getter Robo G, so hey, sue me. But I'd seen Gundam, and Gundam looked really cool to me. I first started buying Gundam models before I'd seen the show. I didn't know anything about it. And then I was able to get some videotapes, and I think at conventions, and that started me down the Gundam rabbit hole, because I'd already loved, during about the same time, Star Blazers Space Battleship Yamato had been brought to America and turned into Star Blazers, and I loved Star Blazers. I did not know at the time much about it. Again, I'd seen pictures of it, like the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction and Starlog and things like that, but I didn't know much about it, and I was enamored of it. It was obviously post-Star Wars. 78, 79, I want to say, is when it was in syndication, and I loved it. The first 2 seasons, I didn't see the Bowler Wars, the season 3, until later. But Gundam, I started building Gundam model kits, and Dougram, and all these Japanese animated shows. I was buying the models from them without having seen the shows. And it wasn't until the early 80s that I first saw, and that's how I saw the 3 movies. I didn't see the show. I found the show way later. I mean, the first Gundam series that was brought to America and dubbed into English was Gundam Wing, and that wasn't even a part of the Universal Century. That's a different universe altogether. And that was the first Gundam show that as soon as it came on, I watched it. And of course, it would be hard to explain the Gundam franchise, how there's the Universal Century timeline. But if you want to get into Gundam, I recommend watching Gundam The Origin. I don't know how much, I haven't even delved into how much Gundam is now on Netflix, but those first 3 Gundam movies, like you were pointing out, are great. So I would say to anybody, get on that, son, and it's good stuff. And you should check it out. Video Hunter D writes in and says, "Hey Rob, since this channel is about celebrating things that we love, I thought I should share my love of a very particular genre of Japanese exploitation films from the 1970s. This genre is called pink violence or pinky violence, and consists of hot Japanese women punching, stabbing, and shooting their way out of prisons, yakuza lairs, high schools, grimy urban streets, you name it. Bursting with color and energy, these films were filled with as much sex and violence as possible to compete with the rising popularity of television at the time. Almost all the great films in this genre star Rieko Aiki, Miki Sugimoto, or Mieko Kaji. Fortunately, the people at Arrow Video appear to be huge fans of Mieko Kaji and have released a book about her films and a great box set of her 4 female convict scorpion films, which I own, and her 5 Stay Cat Rock films, which I wholeheartedly recommend. Criterion has given her some love with the release of her 2 Lady Snowblood films, which are also part of the genre. Rieko Aiki and Miki Sugimoto fight their way through the genre in films like Girl Boss Gorilla, Terrifying Girls High School, Lynch Law Classroom, Zero Woman Red Handcuffs, Sex and Fury, and other awesomely named movies. This genre has aged better than many other exploitation film genres because it's so packed with badass women, and the films are so on the side of their heroines that they usually avoid a sense of gross misogyny. It was a joy to discover this genre, and I hope some of you will check it out. Video Hunter D, I can't agree more. I have most of the pinky violence films that are available on either DVD or Blu-ray. The female scorpion films, and I don't remember who did it, but there's a beautiful box set. It's like a pink vinyl, pinky violence box set that has films in it. It's got an album in it. It's really great stuff. I'm a huge fan. Who doesn't like ass-kicking Japanese girls that kill people and get naked? I mean, I don't know. From the 70s with kick-ass music. So I'm a huge pinky violence fan. I mean, I don't know if I can say that anymore without, what people are going to be offended by. But yeah, the pinky violence films are all worth delving into. Vince Rassa, a.k.a. The Real Vince Rassa, says, "Congratulations on having your movie picked up by Vision Films. I can't wait to see it." Well, thank you, Vince. I very much appreciate you saying so. I've been doing a lot of work on that behalf. So, yeah. So there you go. And thank you for writing in. I very much appreciate it. So we'll see. I'll have more information as we come closer to the release date, which is the 27th of August. Emil Johansson, all the way from Sweden, writes in and says, "Hey, Rob, I just want to thank you for letting me lurk around your chats and stalk all your videos." Emil, I didn't know you were doing that. Should I be nervous? I've been thinking about the impact that some YouTubers have on people. I think John Campea is a very successful entrepreneur, and I like that he creates a sort of way for people to connect on the internet. Even people who hate him have been inspired by him to make their own groups. And then he introduced a lot of people like Schnepp, who knew a lot of what he was talking about and wasn't afraid of talking about what he liked, who then also pushed you to make your own channel and share your wisdom with us mere mortals. I think you're probably the most civil person online because you can go to any corner and find a way to have a reasonable discussion with people somehow. Like, very few people seem to hate you. Well, the people who hate me aren't on YouTube. I think that even though the internet is a way to connect, it's easy to become more distant and isolated from real human interactions. Because people like me are always safe behind a computer screen and can shout whatever nonsense I feel like and get away with it. There's no pressure for me not to be obnoxious or just attack random strangers. Just because so many people now are putting their faces on screen, it seems almost like people are finding it easier to behave as they would in real life and connect with people in a more human way. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, that's very nice of you to say, Emil. I very much appreciate that. I mean, I guess, like I've told people before, I got a DM. I get frequent messages from people that are asking me why am I happy all the time. And I honestly believe that it's a lifestyle choice. You have to choose. You choose to be happy. And even though, yes, shitty things happen all the time. They're always happening. But it's really how you, like, I already know that. I mean, the 20th century alone is filled with horrors beyond imagining. And if I prefer to take the life is beautiful tact, where my life will be over soon enough. And I have to say, to be honest, since I've been on the internet, and maybe because I've also gotten older, I feel much more comfortable now to just be more of myself. Because I'm a pretty laid-back, even-keeled person. I mean, when I explode, sure. But I genuinely like people. I've always genuinely liked people. So, I've usually found it easy to try and have a conversation with just about everybody because I'm interested in what everybody has to say. Some people are like, well, Rob, there's a lot of people that really aren't worth talking to. I don't necessarily believe that. Every person you meet, say it with me now. Well, you can say it at the end of the show, but you're thinking it right now. I know you are. But thank you for that. I appreciate that letter. Roger Robertson writes in. Roger Robertson. Greetings, Rob, and the Post-Geek Singularity. Like many others, I've been enjoying Loki very much. I'm always interested in what people perceive as plot holes. Not that I don't believe mistakes can and will be made, but many times there are explanations. I think that there are a myriad of things involving time travel, which is open to many explanations. My thought, if someone demands what took place is not possible, I will ask them to provide me with the empirical proof from an actual time travel event. I have heard the very valid observation that in Loki Episode 4, it should not have been possible for a Nexus event to be recorded from Lamentis if it was about to be utterly destroyed. I thought about this, and I remembered another sci-fi property involving time travel. This is a quote from Anne Hathaway's character in Interstellar. Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe we should trust that even if we can't understand it. All right, Cooper, yes, the tiniest possibility of seeing Wolf again excites me. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. We know what was happening between Loki and Sylvie when that branch occurred in the sacred timeline. Is love the explanation for the cause of the Nexus event? One of the things I really like about this show is it provides endless conversations. Always a pleasure conversing with you, Rob, and all of our Post-Geek friends. Roger, I too am enjoying Loki. Now, I had conversations with Az about this, and I've I've listened to what people have to say, and I'm like, I don't think necessarily they're wrong. I think, obviously, Loki is a character that is being emasculated by the female characters in the show, but, like, I don't necessarily think that Lady Sif is one of the Warriors 3. She's an Asgardian, and yeah, she's a woman, but when she walks in and starts slapping Loki in the face because Loki thought it would be funny to cut some of her hair off, my first go-to position is not that Loki is being emasculated. It's that he did something to one of the Warriors 3, who happens to be a woman, and she's coming to get some payback. So, I mean, you could choose to look at it that way if you want to, and I think that there is validity to that. There is validity to say that Loki is being emasculated by certain females or whatever. But in my case, I think the whole situation to Loki is unknown territory for him, and he's trying to make sense of it all. And obviously, when you go back to the comic books, all of this stuff it's been in the comics. So they're just deriving a lot of their storylines from the comics. And as an avid comic reader, I'm enjoying them. For the most part, I really have enjoyed WandaVision. I've enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I have enjoyed Loki a great deal. I don't know where they're going to go with it. I really don't see what the what the end game is. I mean, I don't know if they're setting up Battle World and Secret Wars. I have no idea. But I like you. I've been enjoying it, and I wouldn't trade my experiences watching it because I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time. Calvin Bowles writes in and says, Dear Rob, I had recently watched both the Marvel and DC Extended Universe, and I see what DC did wrong. They broke your number one rule, putting the universe ahead of character and story. To illustrate this, let us start at the beginning with Iron Man. This film works totally on its own, and unless you stayed till the end of the credits, which most people did not, you would have no clue of an extended universe. That's right, folks. Back then, most people left during the credits, and that was the bit of the genius to give a little hint but no promise. Next was Incredible Hulk with only one crossover scene, and that was still a throwaway. Then we had Iron Man 2 that you only knew about Thor if you stayed for the credits, that most people still were not doing then. And we had Thor that did give us a clue to the Avengers, but still after the credits. But it was not until Captain America that we got a full-blown Avengers is Coming that took 4 years to happen, and Marvel took their time. Let's see what DC did after Man of Steel. They saw cash Avengers made, and they immediately went to Batman v Superman, introducing Wonder Woman also, Aquaman, and others, throwing it down your throat that this is an extended universe, yet not really caring about the story. And they did the same with the Suicide Squad, although Wonder Woman was still pretty good. They had to make sure that you knew the Justice League was coming. All of this in a year. What this shows is what Marvel did right. They took their time to do. DC just decided to rush. So here's what I would have done. I would have made Man of Steel 2 and then a Batman movie, followed by Wonder Woman and then a Batman v Superman, and maybe a Suicide Squad, followed by Justice League. And then the hints of the Justice League could have been subtle, and they could have taken at least 3 years to do the worst thing you could do here, is rush. Well, Calvin, I agree with you. I think that they should have. And, carefully building your universe makes it more fun for the people, that are watching. So I am totally with you here. Yes. So, by the way, Omar's got a couple letters here. Omar says, Hi, Rob, moderators in the Post-Geek Singularity. I know you're doing Let's Get Physical Media on Saturday due to the July 4th being on Sunday, so you'll not be doing any shows that day, and I'm not sure if you'll do Robservations on Saturday, since you usually don't. So on the same day as Let's Get Physical Media, I wanted to write this here. I will be out of town for 2 weeks or so, which will not make me able to always make it in time for your shows, John Campy and others, as well as be in live chats. But I will definitely try and make it time for yours and other shows as much as I possibly can, and I'll try and keep sending letters. I hope you and everyone living in the U.S. have a nice July 4th weekend. For those who don't live in the U.S., have a nice Sunday to relax or whatever it is you guys do. Like the Terminator, I'll be back. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, Omar, this will give me time to catch up on all the letters you've written me. By the way, Let's Get Physical Media is happening at its normal time because the 4th of July event that I was going to has been canceled. So there you go, unfortunately. What a bummer. This comes from Pat Finch. Pat Finch says, Dear Rob, This is my third letter. A while back, I was listening to one of your streams and on the future of Hollywood's relationship with YouTube. The Turks have figured out something that Hollywood hasn't. Did I already read this? I'll read it again. The Turkish film and TV industries have a complex history starting in the 1950s, with the biggest Turkish film hit being Dracula Istanbul'da, Dracula in Istanbul, which was the birth of the Turkish Hollywood known as Yeşilçam. The golden age of Turkish cinema lasted from 1960 to the early 1980s, when the industry basically died as a result of the introduction of VHS to the Turkish market in the early to mid-1980s. The Turkish film industry came back in the late 1990s, and today the Turkish film and TV industry has been growing in popularity across the Middle East, Asia, South America, and even in some parts of Europe. It's shocking to think that an industry that would have been destroyed through VHS now is in a massive upsurge in popularity. One day, my Turkish classmates, about a year and a half ago, recommended to me a popular Turkish historical drama, The Magnificent Century, about the reign of the greatest sultan in Ottoman history, Suleiman the Magnificent. What shocked me most was the show's production company, Tim's, has done something no current Hollywood production company would ever do. You can watch The Magnificent Century in its entirety with English subtitles for free on YouTube right now. Later on, I discovered that you can even watch Turkish TV channels live broadcasted on YouTube. That includes all the news channels, Fox Turkey, a TV show, or ATV, Show TV Turkey, Show TV Turk, Show TV Max Turkey, and Disney's Star TV, and a few others. A good chunk of the Turkish back film catalog from the 1950s to as recent as a few years ago is also on YouTube for free, though they're through their respective YouTube channels. This creates an interesting question of why these production companies aren't selling these shows to a streaming service like Amazon Prime or Netflix. Well, they actually do. However, it's not to the same extent as it is in the US. Amazon Prime exists alongside Netflix. However, the Turkish public was angry when few popular anticipating shows were placed on Netflix instead of going to theaters. This is because many rural and working class Turkish families don't have the funds and or the internet connection to have a Netflix account. And many of those Turkish shows on YouTube had once aired on Turkish public broadcaster TRT. TRT doesn't have the same standings as other public broadcasters like the BBC in the UK and ABC Australia. So for TRT and for some Turkish production companies that don't have the streaming infrastructure like we do in the US, it is much easier for them to simply post the entirety of their back catalog of shows and films on YouTube and collect the ad revenue on it. And Turkey doesn't have the same strict trademark and copyright laws as the US and Europe. So for many years, Turkish shows and films got away with stealing ideas, scenes, characters, and other copyrighted materials without any penalties. So you have a whole catalog of films like I mentioned in the past, Turkish Star Wars and 3 Dev Adam with Mexican wrestler El Santo, and Captain America versus Turkish Spider-Man, for which you can't sell to a streaming service as it uses copyright material, so they post it on YouTube with subtitles. The current Turkish political situation has also made it hard for some Turkish films and shows to be exported onto a streamer or to be shown in theaters globally outside of Turkey, as some films like Delir, The Crazies, have been banned in Germany, which has the largest Turkish population outside of Turkey, for its overt political messaging, along with many other films and shows also being banned as a result of their political messaging. However, not all Turkish films and shows are plagued with political messages and can be fun to watch, and have been nominated for Academy Awards, like Isle, Daughter of War, which was nominated for Best Foreign Film at the 2018 Academy Awards. It's also about the less-known Turkish involvement in the Korean War and the real-life father-daughter relationship between a Turkish officer and an orphan girl he discovered on the battlefield that still continued after they reunited after being separated for 55 years. But the creme de la creme of Turkish cinema has to be, since it's the 15th anniversary of Superman Returns. Did you know there is a Turkish Superman Returns? Superman Donyor, Superman Returns, was released in 1979, a year after Donner's Superman, and uses music and themes from the iconic Donner film. Can Tulgur, the producer and director of Turkish Superman Returns, when doing the film, was not a Superman fan at the time, but was actually a fan of Shazam from the original Captain Marvel serials from the 1940s. So this film, there's a few Shazam references throughout it. In this letter, there's a link to Turkish Superman Returns from '79 with English subtitles in this letter, along with the live Turkish TV channels and the Neon Harbor YouTube channel, which has a lot of information and documentaries on Turkish and other foreign rip-off cinema, which I recommend subscribing to. I would hope to be involved in a possible review of Turkish Superman Returns with you along with Tom from Midnight's Edge, as he's a big Superman fan, to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Bryan Singer's Superman Returns. Yes, I know I've read this letter before, but you know what? It was here and I forgot to move it into the different queue. So here you go. Here's how you can find Turkish Superman Returns. I should actually send that to Brian and see what he thinks. Uh-oh. Hold on. There you go. There you go. But yes, Pat, I've read your letter twice. It's so nice. I read it twice. So there you go. Always interesting to find out about different cultures and find out what's going on. Rob Tari. I kid you not, I didn't write this. Hi, Rob. Big fan ever since I saw Free Enterprise, and I love the shows you produce. I wanted to share my letter exploring the pros and cons of planning out a franchise in advance. I hope you find my analysis interesting, or at the very least, mildly amusing. Well, Rob, here we go. Rob, I've been a fellow imagination connoisseur for a while now, and I love your channel. The relationship you have with your fan base is insightful, intimate, and yet casual at the same time. I've been itching to submit a letter to the show for quite some time, but I've never found the right topic nor the bravery to write one. Well, I think I finally mustered up the courage to write in something worthwhile to talk about. It is an assessment to a question that has been a thorn in the side for many in the movie sphere. The planning out of the story for a multi-film franchise in advance, is it the right move or not? This topic has seen an uptick in conversation over recent months due to the rather lukewarm conclusion to the unplanned Star Wars sequel trilogy versus the mega success of the meticulously planned out Marvel Cinematic Universe. At first glance, this sounds like a no-brainer. Yes, of course, you should always plan out your stories in advance to tell a fully fleshed out and cohesive narrative. It's only common sense, isn't it? Well, I would like to present a counter-argument to this, and dare I say, maybe even prove that it's not. I'm about to list a series of examples of film series that have been planned out from the get-go, and an array, that have not. I'll leave you and the rest of the imagination connoisseurs to decide which method is the more successful. Let's start off with two of the most beloved and maybe greatest films of all time, The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. Side note, I know I don't have to explain the history of these films to a Godfather fanatic such as you, Rob, but it helps illustrate my point, so bear with me. Both Godfather films were directed by Francis Coppola, written by him and Mario Puzo, and mostly involved the same principal cast and crew from the first film. It is considered to be the best sequel of all time and one of the best films in general, but these films were not planned out as a continuing story in its inception. The story of Michael Corleone was never intended to extend beyond the first film. Sure, there could be more, but it wasn't designed that way. Godfather 2 was the result of Coppola needing some quick funds to make Apocalypse Now and the studio wanting to cash in on the success of the first film. It has been revealed that Puzo and Coppola had ideas and themes for where the story would go, but it wasn't something they planned to write or even film. When the circumstances to eventually make the film presented itself, Coppola and Puzo went to work, and due to their talent as storytellers, they turned out another classic that went on to be a huge success both critically and financially. So there's one example of a film series that didn't have a pre-planned out story and it ended up winning big time. Whether or not Godfather 3 is considered part of this list is up to the reader. Okay, so that's one example. Are there more than that? How about Terminator 2? Another example of a sequel that was not planned and only made because James Cameron got a nice paycheck to do it. Cameron and his creative team sat down and hashed out another great story that pushed its world, characters, and special effects technology in bold new directions. Even to this day, it is arguably considered the best action film in history. What about the multiple Oscar-winning, box office smashing Toy Story franchise? Those four films are separated by decades and yet is one of the greatest film series in history. I would argue the lack of pre-planning made them better films. The gap in time between them allowed the filmmakers to age and gain wisdom from their real-life experiences that got reflected in Woody's journey. Could that kind of retrospective have happened if the films were all planned out in advance in the 90s while the filmmakers were in their 30s? I don't think so. There are even more examples, such as Alien and Alien 2, Frankenstein and Frankenstein 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, the Nolan Batman films, Clerks and Clerks 2, etc. All of these are examples of the first movie being a one and done, only to be followed up by an equally or better unplanned sequel. So contrary to what many say, it can be and maybe should be done this way. But what about the other side of things? How about some examples of planned out franchises? Let's explore the side of that going for a bit, shall we? The MCU, the Harry Potter films, Lord of the Rings, all franchises, albeit based on pre-existing literary sources, and all are great examples of great storytelling with proper planning and a singular vision. These films should be used as case studies for aspiring filmmakers for years to come. The Star Wars prequels. Yes, I'm going there. But you must admit it is the quintessential example of something that got out of hand because it was too planned out by one person. George Lucas claims that he had an outline of the prequel films even before he wrote the original trilogy, but he wouldn't flesh them out into a script until the mid to late 90s. For the first time, George Lucas would write and direct all 3 Star Wars movies. No matter which side of the fence you land on with these films, you must admit they are the most polarizing films in history. Many love them and many hate them, and the reigning side really depends on which side your decade is in. In 2005, the consensus seemed to be these new films sucked and should be forgotten. Today, it's a different story. The prequels are becoming reevaluated, maybe even appreciated, but that's largely due to the expansion of that era through other media, like the Clone Wars TV series. That series, made largely by new writers, introduced new stories and characters and was ultimately not originally part of the plan. Even though the prequel films were planned out and had singular vision, something unplanned ended up being just what the Doctor ordered. What about another example? Let's look at the Matrix trilogy. The first film was a huge critical and pop culture hit that changed the way movies would be made for decades to come. The Wachowskis claim they had all 3 films planned out before the first was even made. They even filmed the last two movies simultaneously. But despite all of their planning, in the end it didn't matter. The story was too convoluted, too preachy, and ultimately did not deliver on the potential that the first film displayed. The series has since fizzled, but hopefully the 4th installment can help rectify things. Even Universal's Dark Universe was being planned out in advance, maybe too far. They had talented directors, writers, and actors all on board and ready to make an epic monster cinematic universe that would rival that of the MCU. One film later, and it burned up faster than a vampire exposed to sunlight. And that's not even the end of it. The Hobbit trilogy were messy and lackluster follow-ups to Lord of the Rings. J.K. Rowling's newest Wizarding World films are not being received the best by critics or filmgoers, and she plans out that stuff just as carefully as Kevin Feige. So what am I getting at after all of these examples? Neither method is tested and true. A pre-planned or fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants method can both work and both fail. The only thing that matters is who's behind the keyboard and what their intention is. Even though Coppola and Puzo didn't intend on making more Godfather films after the first, and the geniuses at Pixar didn't know that they were going to make 4 installments of the Toy Story movies back in 1995, when they each sat down to make another entry in their respective series, they did it with the care for the story and the characters. They weren't afraid to go forward and tell new stories and do what made sense. And this leads me back to where this all started, the J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. Overall, I am a fan of the Star Wars sequels, but even I could admit they were clunky and uneven. It is not because they weren't planned out, but because the people in charge were too concerned about what not to do. They forgot what to do, which was tell the best story. When the prequels came out, George Lucas was accused of sacrificing character and story for shiny new CGI and creating new aliens to make toys out of. Fast forward to the time when The Force Awakens was being made, Disney tried in every way to steer clear of falling into any prequelisms, such as politics, goofy aliens, and an over-reliance on CGI. They were too concerned about bringing you back to the glory days of the 70s and 80s that they didn't push the needle further. They were artificially trying so hard to recreate the love for Star Wars, they wound up just remaking Star Wars. Bringing back the original actors, sets, and ships is nice for a bit, but then you must go somewhere new and surprising. It is true that as much as J.J. Abrams set up intriguing storylines for Rian Johnson to follow through on, he equally wrote him into a corner. But that doesn't mean Johnson isn't without blame. If J.J. is accused of bringing too much nostalgia, Rian must also be blamed for what I think is too much cynicism to Star Wars. I couldn't help feeling like I was being told by an adult to grow up while watching The Last Jedi. With the rise of Skywalker, J.J. got a taste of his own medicine by having to play the ball from the sand trap, and depending on your opinion, he either knocked it out into the lake or it landed somewhere near the green. Metaphors aside, both directors failed because they made a Star Wars film they thought they needed to make instead of what the story truly needed to be. That's very astute. Maybe in an alternate reality, a different director followed up Force Awakens with an even better Episode 8 that pleased everyone. And then another director did the same with Episode 9, and the popular thinking is that the 3 different directors with distinct visions is the way to go. Who knows? But I think much like the MCU, the sequel trilogy is something for future filmmakers to learn from as well, and that is to tell the best story possible and not bring any personal baggage to it. And that brings us to the end of my assessment. Do I think one approach is greater than the other? No. I just illustrated why both sides have equally good and bad results. The outlier in all of this is who is telling the story. I think what matters most is that the writer comes to the film with no ego, preconceived notions, or demands. Just tell the damn story right. Class dismissed. And that comes to us once again from Rob Tari. Rob, great letter. A lot of compelling points that you make. But, I would say a few other things about this. It really comes down to why you're telling a story. And I think one of the problems with something like, I don't believe that the Wachowskis knew what The Matrix 2 and 3 were going to be about. I think they, in a way, they had the opportunity to go make their movies. I think The Matrix is a beautiful standalone film. And I remember once reading that the Wachowskis wanted to make a superhero movie, but they wanted to explain how superheroes could exist in the first place. So The Matrix was their sort of answer to that question. I think it's very clear that they tried their best, but they didn't really know where to go. Because, think about it, the entire first Matrix movie is about freeing your mind, liberating our minds from what we believe to be our perceptions of reality in the universe. That's pretty much the undercurrent of all of that. And what does the one have to do? What does Neo, the one, have to do? Liberate everybody else. They're all stuck in batteries, and what you're supposed to do is liberate all of mankind. Well, that kind of went by the wayside in the sequels. You really didn't. They weren't too. They weren't too worried about liberating all these millions of people that were now acting as human batteries. I just think that they didn't have a story to tell, and when given a chance, like, oh, here's a lot of money, make some Matrix sequels, you're like, okay, who's going to say no to that? And I think in Coppola's case, yeah, he needed money, but Francis Ford Coppola had a great idea. His original idea was The Godfather was a movie not about the mafia, but was about a king and three sons that just happened to be set in the milieu of the mafia. So what he did was he took that and was like, oh, okay, well, where does a king come from? And what happens when there's a new king? And both stories are about the forging of kings. And you're watching Michael's story and Vito's story, and they both are informing each other. That was a genius story. That was a genius way to go. So the idea was sound. And that's what you need. You need an idea. The storyteller, whether they're doing it for money or the storyteller, has to have a great story already before they begin. Yeah, they might be doing it. They might have come up with the story because someone's paying them a lot of money. But you need to have the story in your mind. What story are you going to tell? Is this story worth telling? And if so, why? And I really think, obviously, Godfather 2, the mirror image of how both of these people, how did Vito ascend to being the Don? How did he ascend to being the king that he was? And how does Michael hold on to that and grow his realm? And it's a fascinating idea, a simple idea, but one that is very elegant and very compelling. Who doesn't want to watch that? And once you have that central kernel of an idea and you're able to move forward on it, I guess it would sort of write itself because your idea is so good. I think with the Star Wars movies, they were mandated that, oh, okay, we want to use our old characters, but you've got to create brand new characters. And I think rather than the Star Wars, and this is my problem with Star Trek now as well, it's all up its own ass. The original Star Wars film is about two blue-collar workaday dudes. Luke Skywalker is a farmer, Harrison Ford, Han Solo is a truck driver. Two normal men who get involved in this extraordinary journey. And that's what makes it compelling to us because we see ourselves in the character of Luke, maybe a little bit in Han, maybe a little bit in Ben Kenobi, or maybe some people who identify with 3PO and R2, but we see ourselves in those characters, so they become resonant to us. I mean, every kid has looked at the setting sun. We might not have heard a great theme played on the French horn written by John Williams, but we've all been there, so we all get it. So immediately we understand that you're watching the story of an adventure of two basically workaday Joes who get involved in an extraordinary circumstance. And what's interesting about both, well, Star Wars is that you as the viewer insert yourself into the, you're constantly, my favorite movies are those what if movies, meaning what if this happened to me, what would I do? So you're constantly, I think the movies that are really engaging, when I see movies like Sheriff Brody and Jaws, would I act like, would I do what he does in that movie? You know, and that's what you're constantly asking yourself, oh man, what would I do? What would I do? You might not even be consciously aware of it, but that's why people, I think, love their favorite stories, is because they self-identify with the protagonists. I certainly know I do. The problem with the Star Wars sequels to me is they don't tell any kind of a logical story. The whole premise that the First Order has risen, it makes them, from the very get-go, you look stupid. Our main characters, Han, Luke, and Leia, are idiots. How do they allow that to happen? Right after defeating the Empire at the end of Return of the Jedi, the next movie is the First Orders here. Well, our characters got dumb, you know, and I think that alone puts Episode 7, The Force Awakens. You're like, I don't like this. You're not telling me, you're not showing me something. I mean, I just didn't buy it. I thought it was a bad story to begin with because it's really kind of no story, and they didn't have a compelling narrative. Certainly, the idea, the gist of it, the Kylo Ren Rey idea could have been very cool, but the execution is just laughable. I mean, I hated Force Awakens, and I hated Rise of Skywalker because I think they're non-stories. What's the story of Force Awakens? It just meanders around. I mean, Han Solo shows up. What's his story? Why is he in the movie? You know, R2-D2's under a tarp, and Rey, I mean, I look at her, I'm like, I'm not sympathetic to you. How long are you going to sit like a sad sack in your crashed AT-AT when you could be at home, you could be looking for your parents? Why do you believe that, what kind of a human being believes they need to stay put in one place because their family might come back and get them? I mean, what, they're just going to want, did they live there all together? And wouldn't she come in? It was just, I didn't buy it for a minute. I'm like, I don't believe this character. And if I did believe her, she's so stupid to think that her parents are going to come back after all this time. And she's scavenging. It's just, I'm like, I don't like you. I don't like you as a character. And then when they show me that you can fly the Millennium Falcon better than we ever saw Han Solo fly it, except maybe in the asteroid field, I like you even less. Did not like all that stuff. Did not like. Well, this is always going to be a short show, but let's see where we're at. We'll see. Damo Davies, I think I missed this. Damo Davies sent in a tip and said, I was watching one of your clips from earlier this week about how bad Batman 89 is, and I nearly choked on my coffee. Now, hang on. That was just a letter. How very dare they? I love this movie and need respect and love like all great art. I like the Nolan movies. I love the Burton movies. Well, Damo, I think you're absolutely right about that. There's no reason why you can't love the things that you love, because you should. You should. Because don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't like. Like what you want. Don't worry about what other people think. Our friend Willow Yang. I am morbidly curious about the Karen movie. I think it might be a good hilariosity. When was the first time you heard the term Karen? I only became aware of it last year after the woman in Central Park. I feel bad for all the people with that name. I think that's the first time I heard it too. I mean, Karen, it's like an onomatopoeia. You meet a blonde woman named Karen in your suburb, of course. But I think probably that was in Central Park when a guy was like bird watching or something, and a woman was giving him a hard time. Black dude was bird watching, and she like called the police on him right there. I was watching this going, lady, what, you know, every time I think that, oh, come on, do people really irrationally fear black people? And yes, some of them do. And you forget how much. Can you imagine dealing with that shit on a regular basis? I couldn't. So call Karens. They all deserve it. But yeah, I think that's the first time I heard it. I just thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. But it has to have been the last 2 or 3 years. So yeah. Louis Terrazas says, Yo, Rob, what an interesting coincidence. 25th anniversary of Independence Day films Independence Day as we got our closest look at UFOs. This life is a pure game. Probably is. I want to believe aliens are out there. Maybe they're drones. Maybe they're just stuff that we're testing. Who knows? But tomorrow we celebrate. We will not go quietly into the night. Tomorrow it is no longer an American holiday, but it's a world holiday. Today we celebrate our Independence Day. I love that speech. I love that Bill Pullman recreated it for the internet. It's great stuff. I love Independence Day unapologetically. Do I love Independence Day? Yes, I do. SK Zhang sends in a super chat and says, "Hi Rob, Josh is abusing administrative power. Check Facebook private message." Josh, are you abusing power? I don't know what that means, but I'll check my Facebook messages. I won't do it right now, but I will. Stub McShave says, "I heard that the Hubble telescope has been out of commission for 3 weeks." Well, clearly, Stubble, it's a lie, because clearly the Hubble telescope probably film footage, took images of whatever extraterrestrial overlords are on their way here, so they have to say it's turned off. But yeah, I'm sure the Hubble telescope had that city, or that one of the the big giant mothership to all the city destroyers is coming our way. And those, I'll tell you, I did watch the Tomorrow War. I had a big criticism of it at the beginning that I realized I was told I was wrong about. I went back and rewatched it, and they were right. I was wrong. I wasn't listening close enough, so I look like a douche. But okay, I kind of liked it. I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It's not high art or anything, but I thought it was fun. The creature design I thought was pretty cool too. I enjoyed it. So Stubble, maybe that's why the Hubble telescope is not active, because the aliens are coming. I'd like to believe that. Wouldn't you? Because wouldn't that be cool? Stub McShave says, I read that. Louis Terrassa says, "Are you serious? Can I do a show for your channel?" Yeah, but it's got to be good. I mean, obviously, we're not just going to put up a show because you did it. But yeah, there really is a partner program. The details of it are on the website. As I said, I'd love everybody to do a show, but it has to be good. It has to be a good show. You got to be good. 200 Watt Studio sent a super chat in and says, "Happy 4th to you and Elizabeth. How about the sales on physical media from Barnes & Noble, Criterion Sale, Arrow Films, as well as on Amazon?" I know physical media is just on fire. I have my big order for Criterion discs at Barnes & Noble. I did put it in, and I have eight Criterion titles, which I will share tomorrow on. One of them sold out. Well, I'll tell you tomorrow on Let's Get Physical Media which ones I'm going to buy. Maybe I'll have to pull the trigger, because I haven't bought any physical media this week, so I have to buy something to show. So yeah, 200 Watt Studio. I will tell Elizabeth. Elizabeth is actually at school today. She's gone to school, and she is getting an evaluation for art. She's got an art show today. Well, a critique with other classmates, because there's no school on Monday, so they're doing it today. So that's amazing. I can't wait to hear what she says about it. Steve Austin, a man barely alive. Steve Austin says, "Hello, sir. I've grown to appreciate the content and work ethic you have." Well, thank you very much. "I wonder how you'd advise we support certain types of movies being made for. We lack genres like sci-fi gangster or sci-fi comedies. Way too many shows depend on an episodic detective job." I think you're right. There's a lot of, because it's fashionable and it's an engine which drives those shows. Look, unfortunately, it's really hard to get something made, and now there's a glut of production. There's so much stuff getting made. So yeah, all you can do is support what you like, and support those creators any way you can. Watch their stuff, support them on social media. I've met a lot of authors because they're on social media that I just started randomly tweeting about some author's book, and then suddenly the author writes to me and is like, "Would you like to read a galley of my latest book?" Like Don Winslow sends me books, galleys of his stuff. I love Don Winslow. His new book, City on Fire, I read it in 3 sittings in a day. I couldn't put it down. I literally would get up and have to go do something. I'm like, shit, man, I gotta get back to this. And I read that book in 1 day. And it doesn't even come out till September. And it's already been sold to be a movie. Basically, it's about a gang war between the Italians and the Irish in New England. It was good stuff, man. I dug it. So that's the only way. I mean, I don't know how we're going to get. There won't be a sci-fi gangster movie until somebody makes a sci-fi gangster movie that's really good. I don't know who's going to do that. Yeah. So, yeah. Just support any way you can. Stubble McShave says, I saw the costume designer interview you did with Daniel Orlandi. Oh, thank you. He was a very interesting guest, and you are a great host. Good work, sir. For those of you who don't know, yes, the legendary costume designer, Marilyn Vance, I was at John Campia's housewarming party, and I met her daughter from another mother, Martika, and she and I were just talking. I'm like, oh my God, I was waxing rhapsodic about how I love Marilyn Vance. I mean, whether it was Die Hard, whether it was Predator, whether it was the John Hughes movies, her credits, Untouchables, her credits are impeccable. And and then I got a call, and she said, hey, would you like to host? We need another host for our Designing Hollywood podcast. Would you come be a host? And I'm like, yeah. And like a week later, they had me interview Daniel Orlandi. You can find it on YouTube at the Designing Hollywood thing. It was a great. Daniel Orlandi is incredible costume designer. And I'm going to talk to some really amazing people. I'm going to be talking to the costume designers of Dune, but that's not until October. It's going to be amazing. So thank you for watching, Stubble, and I encourage all of you, if you are interested, to watch the Designing Hollywood podcast. You can get it as a podcast, or you can watch it on YouTube. It looks pretty good. A 200-watt studio says, I used the money for my canceled Dune 4K order from some other Arrow and Criterion titles. Yes. Daniel Griffith's Ballyhoo Films documentary that he'd been working on forever about Dune, Labor of Love, he couldn't finish it in time because of family matters and certain things. So they're rather than wait and maybe miss a certain window, they just decided not to put the feature-length documentary on there, which is really disappointing. I'll be getting the Koch media version from Germany. I don't know if it's going to be on there, but I'm going to be getting that documentary. And or that disc, because it's got the Alan Smithy version and a different version, so I'm going to get that, but you can only get it from their website. So yeah, I understand. Spend that money elsewhere. Although I really like Arrow, but the Dune thing and the non-4K Legend thing, I understand, but it's kind of disappointing. Brendan Chee says, Rob, what a career Jon Favreau has had. He has conquered the 90s indie, Christmas, superhero, and Disney remakes, and now Star Wars, the genre of movies or TV, has had a slew of memorable acting roles. My standout is his great asshole role in I Love You, Man. Oh, yeah, he was great. I love You, Man. I have that on Blu-ray. I think that's a delightful comedy. I love it. Louis Terraza says, Rob, how about a movie business power hour? Good or... Hey, look, man, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to make that show, make the show. It just has to be good. The problem with that is, evergreen shows like that, if you're going to do a thing about the movie business, unless you talk about it in more general terms, it could get, it's not evergreen, meaning it's people can go back and watch it in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or even a year, months or a year. So you could check that out. But yeah, I'm not adverse to any of that. You just got to pitch it, but you got to make 6 episodes. That's the whole thing. You got to make the episodes. Alexander Wilson, hello, sir. How have you been? Alexander Wilson says, according to Michael Franzese, Joe Colombo, the boss of his mafia family, had a big influence on the production of The Godfather. He said that he actually had the final cut rights. The script was pared down so that the mafia part were less. Thoughts? I don't know about that. Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I can't. There's a lot of mafia in The Godfather. It's just they don't really call it mafia until Godfather 2. But yeah, I mean, look, Coppola said that the story is about a king and his 3 sons. They just use that milieu for the movie, so that could very well be true. I don't know how much of a. I think it's probably bravado on a mobster's part talking about how much he had involvement in a movie. But hey, you never know. You never know. I could be totally wrong about that. But I don't know. I don't know. And on this note, kids, kind souls, gentle beings from across the 28 known galaxies, I am going to jump off this show. Tonight, of course, we have Mr. Darren Scott joining us, the producer of movies like Menace to Society and many others. He's a director, he's a producer, and he is coming on tonight on Midnight Metal. And so join us for that. He's a good friend of mine. Tales from the Hood 1, 2, and 3. Menace to Society, Deep Blue Sea 2. He's done a lot of things. He's been in the business for over 30 years. One of my oldest, closest, dearest friends. He's a great man, and he will be on Midnight Metal tonight. He comes on at 1 a.m. Dave Parker and I will be blathering away starting at midnight, but join us for another fantastic guest on Midnight Metal tonight. So that's always a good thing. And on that note, everyone, I'm going to bring an end to Robservations episode number 715. I want to thank my moderating staff, Justin Toner, Brian Hepburn, Joshua Levesque, where are you? Louise X. Sparrow is here. Is here. We had a great show last night, by the way. Justin Toner is here. Everyone is here. It's a party. And that's fantastic. I want to thank all of the Blue Wrenches for all the great work that you do. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And by the way, people still don't know this, but if you do want to write me letters, you go to our website, go to theburnettwork.net. The Burnettwork is all one word. Go to theburnettwork.net, and you can send me a letter free of charge. And for all those people that continue to support the channel through tips and super chats, thank you very much. Remember, when you become a member of this channel, we do have member chats. We will be having another Zoom chat. I love our bi-weekly Zoom chats. They're fantastic. I love seeing everybody. It's so great to see everyone. And I look forward to doing that next week. And again, that's for members, people that support the channel via memberships. And I thank you for that. And I will be having Midnight Metal, and tomorrow Dieter and I will be doing Let's Get Physical Media. So we will see you tomorrow, and with more interesting things to show. And on that note, everyone, thanks for being here on a holiday weekend. I will talk with you later.